At age 52, a friend of mine was experiencing severe pain in his back region. It progressed into his groin. It's okay, I pulled something, I worked too hard outside. You know the excuses, you've probably written some of them yourself. But when he and his partner finally decided to go to a doctor, the first doctor that they saw was very upfront. Sure, there were tests first, lots and lots of tests. Scans of this, scans of that, x-rays, dyes, you name it. We're going to be really careful before we make a diagnosis that suggests death. The diagnosis from the original doctor was that cancer had progressed into his spinal cord to the point that other organs were being impaired and that the growth was quick and painful. Sure, my 52-year-old friend was not very happy. He couldn't get his head around it, especially with his partner sobbing hysterically, yelling at the doctor, threatening to sue, whatever, because death avoidance is what we all want. Life is wonderful. Every single day is wonderful, and we want it to be wonderful. So the two of them continued on a journey that took them to medical facilities, oncology facilities, palliative care facilities, hospice facilities around many states. But at the end of the day, using the tests and some new ones, the pain was getting worse and the diagnosis was the same. Some medical teams were not as forthright. They couched their words. They used euphemisms. But when pushed, when my friend continued to say, how much time do I have? How bad's this pain going to be? What can you do to control it? What can you do to help me? The answers were about all the same. Go live life. Do what you can today. Grab your partner. Love every minute. Each day is precious. But the pain will keep getting worse. And the invasiveness of this cancer could go to your brain, your heart. We're not sure which way it's moving, but it's moving quickly. The pain will get so bad, we'll try our best to keep you on pain meds. And my friend's conclusion, of course, was, I want to stay home. I want to enjoy every minute possible. Well, go do what you can right now while you can. And yes, we'll try very hard to keep your pain under control at home. However, and the partner would scream and say, you have to do something. There must be something you can do. We're going to find a different doctor. We're going to find a different hospital. We'll go to a different country. But it didn't change anything. And my friend was feeling worse every single day. The pains would get him screaming. The family would come running out of their rooms. It got worse and worse and worse. Eventually, my friend got his head around it. We're all gonna die, he thought. He and I had some very long conversations about death and the fact that we can't escape it. Life is wonderful, but we don't know how long we have. The end of the story about my friend is he had a good ending in the sense that he did the things he wanted to do. Okay, not all of them. He ran out of time. We all will run out of time. The one great thing was that he kept his pain under control. He kept telling his family, when I get so bad that they have to put me in an induced coma and I can't eat, that's the way I want it. I don't want you seeing me screaming over and over and over again, knowing there's nothing you can do. And so at the very end, he ended up in a facility that had great palliative care, and that's exactly what they allowed him to do. Okay, you say, that's just one example. I mean, a few people are going to die from some mysterious illness, but that's not me. We're all going to live. We're all going to have a wonderful life. I mean, that's what life is all about. You don't die till you're old. And hopefully that's true. Hopefully you and I will live way past the median age of 78.8 in America. Hopefully we won't be one of the 35% who die before the age of 65. But living with hope and living with plans are two different things. The purpose of life is life with a purpose. If you're not doing what you want to do every single day, if you're making excuses as to why you can't quite get to this, then you're not making the most of your life. Every single day is a gift. Let's move on to a different friend. I volunteer a lot with Make-A-Wish. And Make-A-Wish, as you know, gives wishes to children, those under age 21, who are facing a life-threatening disease. Most of my stories are wonderful stories. Kids who got some wonderful dream to come true that helped keep their mind off their illness in the darkest of days. But I also have stories of those who died at a very young age. And the pain and anguish of those parents or loved ones, to say nothing of the pain that that child had to go through, is absolutely heartbreaking. But we have two choices when we face that. We can find the humor, we can find the goodness, we can make a day a very special day, we can give that child something to look forward to, even if it's a pajama party with all of the staff from that floor coming to the room. But we can't change the fact that life is precious and death is part of living. Again, you say, this is morbid. Why are we talking about death? We're talking about death because it's part of life. And yes, we all seem to feel that if we get legal paperwork in order, which less than 50% of us do anyway, but if we get the will in order, we make sure that someone has the power of attorney or medical power of attorney, or we've signed forms that say do not resuscitate or do resuscitate, and we've talked with our doctor that everything will be fine. It's much more complicated than that. When my friend Mike at age 52 faced that horrific, painful cancer, it was a great medical team that sat with him and his family and said, how much pain do you want to endure? Do you realize what a coma will do? Do you realize you will no longer be able to communicate with your family? They explained things. They told the truth. And no, everyone in the family didn't accept it. People were angry, people yelled, people walked out, people threatened suicide, people threatened lawsuits. Let's move on to the story of my own parents, who all died during the year of 2017. 3 parents within 8 months of each other. It's kind of hard to take when you have the responsibility for all of them, especially when they didn't want to discuss what their end-of-life wishes were. What haven't you finished, Mom? What do you wish you'd done? What are the things still on your bucket list? And damn, I wish I'd asked those questions 20 years before, 30 years before. Why don't you and I have those conversations at a cocktail party? You know, the truth is we're willing to discuss birth and midwifery. We'll discuss penile dysfunction. We'll discuss menopause. We'll discuss defaulting on your mortgage. But we won't discuss what we want to get out of life. We won't discuss what we think our tolerance for pain or for hospitals or for feeding tubes or for intervention by medical team after medical team, what that means to us. Why? Why has it become a morbid subject? Why in our culture do we say that talking about death is not acceptable? We can't even say, I'm so sorry your dad died. We say, I'm so sorry he passed. Or, your dad's gone to meet his maker. Okay, that's kind of confusing to someone who may not have experienced death before. How about to a child? I mean, we do all these silly things to avoid the word death. Humpty Dumpty fell off a wall and died. No, his shell didn't just break. And by the way, that goldfish is not sleeping at the bottom of the tank. That goldfish is dead. It's part of living. We can't run away from death, and we can't fear death. Death is dark and dreary and doom-like if we can't share it with others, if we can't talk about it, if we can't make it part of our life. Have you ever considered the fact that the very elderly, those lucky enough to live beyond the age of 85, often die from 3 or 4 top reasons? And they're tough. They're long, they're drawn out. Heart disease, cancer, dementia. Those diseases take so much from the person. And we hate seeing them at that point in their life. Death becomes such a long process. Birthing, at least we know, is a 9-month process. But we can't talk about that. We watch it and we wring our hands and we say, Mom or Dad or a loved one, don't go. We need you. Stay here. How does that change anything? How does that make people feel better? If we could look at the real story of what our life is about. Why don't you sit right now and write an obituary as if you died tonight? What are the things you're going to put in there that you're proud of as your accomplishments? And when you read that, what are you going to say you wish you were able to add to that obituary? Maybe tomorrow rewrite it as if you knew that you were going to die on your 100th birthday. How would your obituary look different? And saying that, what's stopping you from making some of those things happen today? Because we don't know when we'll have a story like a Make-A-Wish child, like my friend Mike, like an 85-year-old suffering from serious dementia. We don't know how the end will come, but we know it will. We're all going to die. Why won't we talk about it? How can I help you approach the subject so that you can hug your friend and say, I'm so sorry your dad died? How can I help you approach the subject so that when someone gets a terrible diagnosis, sure, they're sad, but you help them figure out how to use the rest of their life the way they want, which may not be the way you want. All of us are going to die.